Welcome back to another episode of the Dynasty Dingers podcast. It is Monday, February 10th. We are on to part 2 of the 30 team points breakdown. Owen, Doc, what is going on, gentlemen? Welcome back.
Good to be back.
Doc's going through a little bit of technical difficulties, but we've got him live right now.
Technical difficulties, man. It's crazy. You know, what's interesting, I spoke to a detective from a local police department today, and we ended up talking about fantasy baseball. And he's like, "Yeah, I like scout the stat line." I'm like, "What? I mean, you know those guys?" And he said, "Yeah." I'm like, "You know who I am?" Like, I'm like running the account half the time, and Doc, bro. And he kind of gave me a funny look. I think he realized who I was. Is interesting. So we're growing out here in rural, not rural, but like semi-rural Indiana.
I kid you not, something really similar happened to me. So I work as a bouncer at Kilroy's, and I met a guy who used to play for University of Kentucky. He used to play baseball there. He was like a minor league catcher for like a Brewers affiliate, or like a bullpen catcher, I think. And I was just talking to him. I'm like, Prospects Live and Scout the Stat Line? He's like, hell yeah. He's like, I write for both of them, man. We had a really good conversation about that. So
it's so weird. It's like
growing the game one conversation at a time.
Yeah, it's like if you like fantasy baseball, you really like it. There's no real in between.
Oh yeah,
these days.
Yeah, you're either all in or not at all.
I think the community is also smaller than we may like to think. Doc and I have had conversations before about certain creators that are, either doing well financially with Patreon or have grown their accounts pretty significantly. But I would like to see the numbers as an overall community. I can't imagine it's over 50,000. And I know that might seem like a small number in comparison to other fantasy affiliates like fantasy football, for example, but to the point, like most people that are engaged in the community are also engaged on social media or are following podcasts or are following websites. And like, I think it is more of a small knit community than we might like to admit.
Just one more thing I'll say on that. I think really like our definition of like a mainstream fantasy analyst too is like a lot lower of a bar than you would look at for like other professions. Like I would consider like a fantasy analyst with 25,000 plus followers. That's I feel like that's mainstream versus whereas you look at some other areas where like if it's not 100K plus, like they're not considered a big name in that space.
Yeah, I mean, what do you guys think? I think probably CBS, Scott, Chris, and Frank are probably the biggest because CBS's brand is huge and like they do it full time professionally, and it has a CBS weight. Would you guys agree that's the biggest draw?
Oh yeah, I'd say like them and Fangraphs are probably up there with the Roto Baller too.
Doc, what do you think?
I think the CBS guys know how to reach the audience, and they're pretty dynamic because they have a podcast that's very engaging. I think Baseball America and even the Pipeline guys, they're in their own kind of world. Especially, I should say the Pipeline MLB.com guys are in their own kind of world. But yeah, it's like, but again, like I listen to the Pipeline podcast. I'm grateful for it. They have great access to players, but yeah, I think that the CBS guys do. They're a little bit more engaging personally.
Unlike Baseball America, for forever I was like, I am never subbing to this. I finally did sub to it, and like I feel like the level of information you get for that is like, if the sub was like 3 times the price, I would understand it.
They're great guys.
They really are really in depth. You can find just pretty much anything on everybody, and including those articles. Like you're like, why didn't I think of that? And then you read it, and it's really well put together.
Yeah, they have the foundation too, right? I mean, Baseball America, dating back decades now with the infrastructure they've built and like just the way they hire and go out on scouting reports, or I guess I would say scouting assignments, like they've built a business, right? Like that's what Baseball America is a business, where CBS is, on the other hand, kind of was like, okay, we're this massive conglomerate, especially under CBS Sports, where how do we give our fan base the content that they desire, because we do have the funding for it. And that's the hardest thing, right? Like think about Scott the Statline and its growth. It's a lot of us as a second, part-time hobby / job, where the dream is for everybody to be able to be paid a living wage to do their hobby. But it's like CBS, Baseball America, they can do it. And then I think it kind of gets into like the question mark of what other publications are actually able to offer full-time salaries to have people be able to really commit to this full time, because that's where you get great content, right? When you spend 8 hours a day, like Chris Clegg is doing privately, you've got to find a way to monetize it to make it worth it. All right, guys, are we ready?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm ready to rumble, dude. I'm nice and kind of pissed off at technology. I'm coming at it with a
Can't
different
tell that. No.
with a different angle today. You know, I'm coming in here with a hard line. Every team we're gonna analyze is gonna get it. They're gonna get these hands and the cigar.
Well, let's kick it off. I mean, I think this is 116 is going to be a really great one for you to start and criticize to its core because, well, frankly, it's Owen's team. So, Owen, you had the pick 116. That's going to be the first team we talk about today. We're running picks 116 through 130, breaking down each team. I'm going to let Doc start this one so that you can defend yourself as he comes at you a little hotter here. You started with Tatis, Hunter Green in the second round, James Jones, let's see, Jared Jones, excuse me, in the third round, Colton Keith in the fourth round, Alec Burleson fifth, and then your first prospect pick was DeVries. Nice. Kalaz second. Very nice. I like that. Doc, what did you think of Owen's team?
I think this is the one I like better than the other one. This one, I think is a great little start. Colt Keith and Alec Burleson are a couple of boring darlings of mine. I think they're fun picks. Eric Getty's primed for a breakout. I didn't get him in either league. It's a guy who's flashing those double-digit strikeouts. Big into that. Brian Rocchio, you know, I don't know what you're thinking, man. That's just one of the worst picks of all time. Yeah. Spencer Torkelson, that's a fun little gamble. It's in the 9th. I mean, I'd like to wait later. I'm not sure if you can. I took Oscar Colas in the other league. We're just gambling out here, right? Then breaking it down to the prospects. LDV, Colas, I do like that. I do like Sloan in the 30th. Jet Williams, I'm out on. So 29th round is not working for me. James Triantos in round 31, like most underrated prospect out there. Maybe like this guy's probably going to be like a solid major leaguer. Just got a solid hit tool. Just gets the job done. Going down here, you got Waldschmidt, Tibbs. Man, this is good value for Waldschmidt. Round 34. Tibbs got some good upside. He didn't start. I think that Tibbs was the guy who he struggled after he was not supposed to struggle like the way he did. So that'll be interesting to see what happens. I know he's big on Peyton Toll. I don't know how to say it. Big dude. He looks really he looks like every inch of 6'8", I think he is. So I'd like to hear Owen talk about him in the 47th. Those are my initial thoughts here. Oh, I will say that Peyton Stovall, I looked into him the other day, and that's his second to last prospect pick. This guy was supposed to be like a really high first round prep pick, and then he went to college and totally ruined his stock. So it's interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see if he can rebuild his value in the minors.
All right, Owen, what'd you think of your own draft? What directions do you think you could have gone differently? Are you stoked on kind of the value picks that you had?
I really liked my first three. Like going in a points league, I want to get the top of my rotation just solidified with kind of high strikeout guys. I feel like I did that pretty well with Green and Jones. Really, I would say even just rounds 1 through 7 with Tatis, Green, Jones, Keith, Burleson, Eric Getty, Abreu. I like those a lot. Round 8 was where that was kind of one of my picks of regret. Is like I felt like to that point I was kind of lacking that veteran to really carry the youth in my lineup. And I went with Max Muncy there. In hindsight, probably should have gone with Joey Ortiz. Then I don't have Rocio at shortstop, can get like a veteran later on. So that was one where I felt not great about. I really like how the later rounds came together, like Torkelson in round 9. I'll take that gamble. Like I don't want to go for a relatively unproven guy early on, but like round 9, I'll take that. And then, even after that, like Jeffers in round 11, Rayleigh in round 12, Gavin Stone in round 13 was actually one of my favorites. I know he's going to be out for this year, but I feel like with him, Arrighetti, Jones, and Green, when healthy, I've got 4 aces in my rotation. Then I'll just jump right into the prospects line. I was ecstatic with how the prospects turned out for me. Like DeVries at 15, I didn't think was going to be there. And then Kalaz, getting him at that wraparound was probably the best 1-2 I could have thought to ask for. But for me, even my first 6 picks of that, for me, I've got top 100 prospect grades on. So I really liked how that really started out. And then some of the later round value I was able to get, Waldschmidt and Tibbs, I liked a lot there. Some of my late round arms were actually some of my favorite picks too, with especially Paez, Mekich, Witrowski, and Joey Broughton. I like those 4 a lot there. I liked that run. And then Johnny King, just please stay healthy, man. The stuff is so advanced for a guy who turned 18 right before the draft. So there's a lot of upside with that. I feel like Ellis Cuevas is a breakout prospect pick of mine for 25. So I like getting him there. And then even the last few prospect rounds when everyone was saying, oh, it's really starting to dry up, I really liked getting Ethan Bagwell in 54. I really like the Stovall pick at 55. When the injuries really plagued him through college, but when he was healthy, he was producing like a first round talent. So I think really to get him there was really good value. And then is some of my other favorites. I really liked Nazan Zanatello in 56. Yeah, he's really raw. It's going to take a longer development trajectory, but really I like the upside a lot there. And I did end up trading him with a 4th for Curtis Mead, who I liked as a buy low, and I dealt Waldschmidt for Soderstrom just to have a kind of first base or utility backup with should Torkelson not produce. So I liked those 2 moves. Still feel like I need an upgrade at shortstop. Definitely. I was planning to go shortstop in round 9, but I got sniped with Tommy Edman 1 pick before me. And at that point, it really became just not wanting to reach on anybody. And at that point, it's like, okay, I'll address it later just via trade. And then, that and starting pitcher depth are 2 I feel like I'd like to improve on a little bit before the season starts. But other than that, I like the foundation. I feel like I really hit the prospect rounds out of the water.
Yeah, I like your Soderstrom trade. I think that's a good pairing with Torkelson. Obviously, both risk attached, but might as well have 2 risk attached players with the upside of Soderstrom this season playing, right? Torkelson needs to trade, but if you can hit on both of those guys, it's a
I do
plus.
still like Mead long term too, especially with Lau. I think is making 10 million this year. I don't really view him as that long term second baseman in Tampa Bay. So I think with Curtis Mead, really it's just an issue of give him the playing time. So that was kind of one where I felt like the cost was still a bit rich for just what I was buying, like in terms of present value. But I think long term, that's a move that could really pay off.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be an interesting one. The glove definitely is. He needs to work on the glove, and they've been trying to push that with his demotions, I think. Okay, let's move on. We have the home run factory at 117. Jackson Merrill was the first pick off the board, followed by George Kirby, Mark Vientos in round 3, Bo Bichette round 4, Brandon Pfaadt round 5, Jesus Luzardo, interesting pick in round 6, Marcus Semien, a lot of great value there in round 7, and then Yandy Diaz, followed by Tyler O'Neill. I think a pretty decent 9 picks there. Owen, why don't you kick off the eval of Home Run Factory?
Yeah. Personally, I understand taking Merrill there. I feel like there were a couple guys that went a little later that I would have expected to go there. I feel like personally, if it were me, I would have taken Caminero or Wood at that spot.
Yep.
I do like I like Kirby and Vientos at the 2-3. Bichette in a contract year could definitely pay off, but there's some glaring approach issues there. I'm not sure that's quite the route I would have gone, but I do think it's a good value pick at that point. I really like Pfaadt and Luzardo and the 5th and the 6th, Semien in the 7th, as you said. I think that's really good value there, even if he's only a 1 to 2 year option there. Looking on a little later, my one kind of knack with this team is I really feel like it lacks an established stud closer. But you've got some interesting hold guys with Jason Adams, Chapman as a handcuff, Strom, AJ Minter. Getting onto the prospects here. I like the start Emmanuel Rodriguez and Jesus Mahe. I understand Joyce and the 29th is a need pick, but to me, that's really he's not an established closer, even in LA. There's a lot of options there. They're paying Stevenson a lot of money. There's some other guys there that I feel like have kind of put that role a bit too much in the air for me to have looked him that way. I really like Teodo in the 30th. Moving on a little down, I like River Ryan in the 35th too, another injury guy. But the stuff is no denying the stuff. I like some of these later round picks too with Levi Sterling, Diego Tornes.
Tornes, he got it at a great value in the 40th round. That's pretty surprising.
I also really like Ching Hai-Sien Ko there in the 44th. He was kind of a late international signing by the Dodgers, performed well in the DSL. Could see him stateside this year. And then even getting on a bit later after that, I like Solomedo there in the 47th, obviously coming off a rocky season, but with kind of Pittsburgh development, kind of having that just former top prospect status, I think it's a worthy gamble there. overall, yeah, I feel like it's a pretty solid team. I like the first few rounds. I do think there's a couple holes, especially starting pitching too after the Kirby fought Luzardo. I don't feel like is great. Other than
Yeah,
that,
Luzardo
though,
as a three is Luzardo as a three is scary, right? Like
yeah,
it's a good pick, but it could be a terrible third and a glaring hole.
yeah. Jumping back to the MLB for one quick, I really like Conforto in round 12 there. I really feel like getting him out of San Francisco and hitting fifth or sixth in that stacked Dodgers lineup could be a really good season for him. But yeah, I also thought I liked Abby Malek Ortiz in the 34th, coming off a down year, but some big time power. Got an aggressive assignment last year too to Double-A. So I think it's a bit too early to close that book on him. But some big prospect picks I liked, and I like some of the early round picks from this team.
All right, Doc, what do you think?
Okay, so first of all, am I sounding good? Do I sound cool? Can you hear me still?
You sound
Yes.
great.
We're good. That's good, man. I wasn't sure about it. We got to cap these things, man. 2 minutes again. I want to do the moderator thing. Otherwise, we're never going to – well, we will be here for 3 hours.
Owen, you're at about 4 minutes, so I'm going to have you cut it in half moving forward.
Got it.
Which is okay. You were excited. I like that. It's hard not to be excited for the first ones. Plus, we kicked you off on a poor leg. It was your
I'm cool with him talking his own a little bit longer,
yes.
But that was the most polite way I had to tell Owen to shut up and let me talk. Yeah, no. I mean, honestly, he covered a bunch there. So I would say that Vientos is a huge target of mine this offseason. I think there's a lot of value. His market value is increasing quite a bit compared to last year, where I had to yell at people to get on board. That said, there's still room to grow here. I think he could be a 40 home run bat, which is very exciting. And obviously a lineup that seems to be improving. I don't trust Luzardo for a second, so I actually like the Fott pick in a points league, especially. I don't think a true closer necessarily matters, and apparently he doesn't either. He went for 6 straight relievers, and like guys like Jason Adam, like those will get you points no matter what. The team I think lacks depth, so I'm interested to see what he makes happen here. Made's got that big upside. I'm kind of surprised he lasted that long, given all the hype with Made these days. I think it's a fine spot. I think an underrated pick here was Chase Meadroth. Everyone's kind of forgotten about him. I think he's a Ross Jensen sweetheart. He's just boring. I think in points, maybe he could be a Stephen Kwan-esque kind of hitter where he's just going to get – by the way, he's on the White Sox now. I'm not sure if y'all realize this. He was part of that Crochet deal. I barely even – I did not register that. I was on a phone call recently, and I was like, is he still on the Red Sox? No, he's a sock, but different kind of sock. And so he'll get that playing time, and he could rock like the most boring 300 average or something like that at a weak position. So yeah, all in all, I think he's got some work to do. Hasn't been making trades yet. We'll see what happens. At the end of his prospects draft kind of fell off, but the first half pretty solid. So a mixed bag for the home run factory. Glad to have him on board though. He's a nice guy.
All right, we're moving on. Next team is going to be the Savannah Bananas. Doc, we have an absolute plethora of trades to go through here. I have it pulled up, but are you okay taking that reins?
Yeah, no, this guy's cool, man. This guy's one of our most active GMs. Shout out to Savannah Bananas. He's out there bullying everyone. Home run factory, I like that guy, but man, we had to bully him a few times for getting on the clock and making his picks. So Bananas is like my honorary vice commissioner. So getting into the actual trades, he traded Alan Roden, George Volkow, should be Volkov in the old country, and Edgardo Henriquez to the Vegas 51s for Ryan Nelson, Jesus Sanchez, Garrett Mitchell, and Jake Cousins. So that's a go for it move. I like it quite a bit for Savannah Bananas. I guess he should go get Bazana, man. Yeah. And so then he got another one where basically I'll just highlight like the guys who matter. So really, he's getting Christopher Morel for a first next year. I hate that trade for him. Sorry, bro. I just don't really believe in Morel that much. Maybe Tampa figures him out, or maybe they turn him into like a weird platoon bat that's like not that useful. So a little bit worried about that one. Do like the next trade where he gets Zach Gallen, who just everyone is writing off. He did have to send back Clark Schmidt, who I looked at his numbers. I'm like, this guy's kind of underrated. And then he loses Garrett Mitchell. So we'll see. Again, we don't know if Garrett Mitchell is ever going to live up to what his metrics say he could be, because he might just be a platoon guy in Milwaukee. Maybe that's who he is. He picks up Framber Valdez for a couple of prospects and Shane McClanahan. I think that's overall he's getting the best player there. McClanahan, people are acting like there's no risk coming off the injury. That seems weird. Wow, look at that. And then he goes and trades Gallen away for AJ Smith-Shawver and Kumar Rocker. So I guess he's not going for it. Maybe he lost some confidence. That's so funny, man. This is great. And then what's this next trade here? This is just a bunch of random. This doesn't matter. It's just a bunch of low-level prospects. What a weird trade.
First pick was Alvarez. You talked about McClanahan. He still has King on the roster. Still has Alcantara on the roster. Austin Wells still on his roster. Josh Young still on the roster. Let's see here. Christian Encarnacion Strachan still with him. So those are the players kind of mixed in with the guys that you talked about acquiring. What did you think about like pairing those guys with what he's traded for?
Yeah, so Michael King is just still like, I guess I love this guy. He's bigger than you think he is. For some reason, I thought, last year I was thinking he was 6 feet tall, and then even as I was drafting him, I'm like, oh, he's 6'3", nice. He's a
wait, Doc, wait. Guess who he already has on this team? He took Travis Bazana.
Oh, he does. Great. Change the name.
He's got to change
the
name.
Great, man. I like it. So yeah, Michael King though is an absolute ace, and I like him better than Shane Mack, like way better. I think he's going to be again cementing his status as an ace. Sandy Alcantara is like a really good bounce back pick, assuming he can log those innings in our points league. Like back, he could actually be a total stud. Yep. I'm actually, as I'm talking, I'm like, oh yeah. Austin Wells super underrated. I think there's more growth for Austin Wells. Taking those walks and some bombs. I think he'll be good. He'll hit some more bombs this year and boost his stock. Josh Young, scared. I like the Rangers. Scared for he's like kind of got the Alex Kirilloff kind of vibe with his wrist and hand injuries, right? It's getting weird, man. Then CES, I don't know what's going to happen with him. I'm really on the fence. A couple weird picks here. All in all, though, I'm seeing I like.
Let's go 30 seconds for prospects.
Yeah, most of what he's doing there, I like. Scan down Anthony Rendon. Oof. So it's gritty. Bazana's great. Celestin, a high upside. Spencer Jones, maybe. Brother Guerrero, that's a sneaky pick. That's a smart pick. Noah Cameron, he's trying to sell him to me. He knows I like him. That's fun. Fun, boring arm. Going to be starting this year probably at some point. Kind of fading a little bit after that. Not really into his like later greasy picks. Other than Humberto Cruz, 17-year-old. I ended on this 17-year-old who's like, I think the Padres' 5th best prospect.
Yep.
He's already black. He's like he can touch 97 or something at 17. It's fun. I got him in the other league. I hadn't really looked into him, but he's got my attention.
All right, Owen, jump in. What do you think of the Savannah Bazanas?
Just looking at it just from the draft, this is a really fun team if everything clicks. I don't really like the kind of lack of directional trades. I do think he got really good value on Gallen. I don't really quite understand the logic of then trading him away for. I'm a big Smith-Shawver believer, but Rocker is just, there's a lot of risk there. He hasn't shown that he can handle a starter's workload. He's somebody I'm more looking to sell off off his debut rather than buy. I'll do a bit more on the prospects since Doc covered a lot of the big league team. I don't love the farm system. Honestly, I feel like there's a couple high upside guys, Bazana, Celestin. I would not touch Spencer Jones with anything in round 29. I like Brailer Guerrero. I think he was smart to deal Wolkow. I mean, the power's there, but the contact and the strikeout rates are just glaring red flags. Other than that, I don't love Jose Perdomo in round 34. I know he was a really hyped international prospect just a year ago. Honestly, the debut was unflattering. I'm really not sure what kind of player he's going to be. Then I do like his 35-36 with Brody Hopkins and Diber De Los Santos. Carson DiMartini is another one I really liked in round 38. But other than that, I like the Humberto Cruz pick too. But other than that, I feel like there's a few hits from this farm system and just a lot of guys that if everything clicks, it could prove me wrong. But just at first glance, I just don't love a lot of these prospect picks.
Yeah, there's some names that you guys both like, and then there were some names that I haven't really heard of. And I think that's kind of the risk, right? Like, where's the real depth there? And he really needs some of those guys that are liked in the industry to actually take that step forward into having a good pedigree. Moving on to the Las Vegas 51s. This team has also made an absolute plethora of trades so far. Doc, I'm just going to hit on it real quick so that we can blow through it. He had originally taken James Wood, 119, Spencer Schwellenbach.
Let me do it. Let me. Oh, you want to do the?
I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to pass. Yeah, then I'm going to pass the trades off to you, and then you can pass it to Owen for a breakdown.
Great. We got it.
We got a ton of trades. So Spencer Schwellenbach in the second, Matt McClain in the third, Shane Baz in the fourth, Ivan Herrera, which is a nice, I think, upside pick in the fifth for catcher. Morel, already mentioned, has been traded. Drew Rasmussen in the seventh. Soderstrom also traded. This guy has traded half his team already. Garrett Mitchell also traded. So, Doc, go ahead and talk about the reorganization.
So hopefully you listen to the entirety of our 4-hour first half of this recap, because this guy is a maniac. He's gone for full rebuild, even though we did a separate MLB draft and a separate MLB prospects draft. He's going all in. He traded, and even though he's doing that, he traded James Wood and Sebastian Walcott for essentially, Trevor Harrison's making some buzz, but mostly Wyatt Langford. I was dismissing Trevor Harrison, some random guy. I realized after, I'm like, let me look into him. No, he's actually kind of a stud. But Wyatt Langford, I think, is the best player. It's interesting. Moving on fast. He got Christian Campbell, and the other guys, doesn't matter. He got Christian Campbell. He traded Matt McClain, Spencer Schwellenbach, which he could be a total stud. Just some real hype building around him.
Second round pick.
And Shane Baz. So it's like this guy's all in on the rebuild, which is they're weird moves, man. They're weird moves because those guys are young too, but he wants his guy, so I respect it. And then he's sending off it's the trade we just talked about in the last segment. We won't talk about it again. He traded Soderstrom to Owen here for Waldschmidt. I think that probably helps both sides. Then he sends away Drew Rasmussen, which he should if he's rebuilding, I guess. I don't really trust his arm. Gets a round 3 pick and a couple random prospects. See what happens. He trades. We did the Morel trade. Sorry. He actually traded away Ivan Herrera. So yeah. I tried knocking on that door. There's way too much helium around Herrera.
He wanted too much for him. Same.
Jimmy Crooks is probably the catcher of the future there. FYI.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that later. I think I probably picked him, so I'll talk about it later. Ivan Herrera for round 4, Jesus Baez, Andrew Muth. So he's just going again. Maybe they're studs. Maybe they we don't hear about them again. They're kind of distant prospects. Trades Liam. I'm going running out of gas here, man. He trades Liam Hendricks for Kavaris Tears, which is another kind of middling prospect. Could be cool. I think it's fine. Trades Adrian. This was a shrewd deal, dude. He won this deal. Sorry, I'm kind of mid. Their guy's name is I'm kind of mid. Adrian Morejon, the day before it's announced he's going to be a reliever and not a starter. I guess that was the appeal. He was going to be in the rotation this year, but then he's not. Trades him for Jackson Bowmeister. Already alone, that's a win, and he also gets a round 3. Love that deal for.
I'm in disagreement on you with this one.
Oh, it's crazy that you could be so wrong, but
one guy touches 95 I think Morejon could be unbelievable. I think by 27,
you're going to get a really good starter at Jackson Bowmeister. He's going to be a Sakura Thomas White prospect by this time next year.
I mean, I disagree.
Well,
I think he's good, but I can't agree with you on that one.
Well, that's all right. Well, we're going to find out this time next year, and it's going to look great. Another trophy, and I'm going to put both your heads on my wall.
I'll clip this out for either me and Owen to look stupid or for you to look stupid, and we'll hold it.
Yes, I love it. I'll put your heads on my wall like trophies. Okay, so the next one is the last one. He trades Curtis Mead to Owen. We already talked about this trade, so yeah, we got to clip that last trade talk out because that's the highlight of the podcast so far.
Okay, I'm going to have Owen take the breakdown of this, Doc, and then I'm going to move us on to the next team. Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, Owen, go ahead. What do you think?
Yeah, I will say, from a draft perspective, there were definitely some reaches and a lot of banking on upside, but I don't even dislike the draft, more so just kind of the trades afterward. I was actually honestly surprised when I saw what the return for Herrera was, because I had actually asked about him and was told a haul. And a few big prospect names were brought up, and then just to see that, I'm like, I could have matched that with a lot of the lesser guys that he didn't even mention. And then I really like that. I was also asking about Morejon too. And he sent me a proposal. He's like, I forget exactly what it was. I think it was, I want to say Zonatello in a third. And I was like, okay. And he's like, no, actually I'm gonna wait, see if he gets announced as a starter. And then the day before he gets announced as a reliever, he gets dealt. So I felt like, yeah, there were definitely a couple, and I really like the I think I like it the Morejon side for I'm kind of mid because like yes, he may not convert to a starter this year, but you look at you look at the stuff like the profile for him to succeed as a starter is definitely there. I really do think he could be a Crochet type impact as a starter should when they convert him. It's not not
In
a if,
worst
but I
case
think it's
scenario, you
doable.
have a guy at 26 that may be their closer in 8 months. Maybe not
Yeah,
2025, maybe 2026, but like either way, you have value there.
and I
Or
think
Baumeister is
Tyson Neighbors.
I think you also have to look at it as in, you know, Cease could get dealt, King could get
yep.
dealt. That's two big voids in the rotation right there. And so I really don't I think should those two get dealt, I really think they could flip their stance really quickly. Because do you really want to put the holes of Cease and King in the hands of Johnny Brito and Randy Vasquez? No, I don't think so. I think they could. I think really Morejon, worst case could be a Lugo type for them, and best case could be a Crochet type. So really, I like that deal a lot.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely cut that one out. It's hard though, Doc. Like I think Owen, the trade you offered real quick before we move on to the next team here, I think he got a better deal in Baumeister and the third
Oh, I
round pick.
agree.
Right? Like
I agree.
that's the trade he should have taken because if
Yeah.
Doc's right about Baumeister, great job on I think both sides. It's a win-win trade. Like you still
Yeah.
have the upside of Morejon potentially doing this, and then you have, you know, Baumeister.
Let's
Honestly,
give this guy a quick.
I would have been willing to do something similar for Morejon. Like, you know, you give me get a top prospect off my team, maybe honestly, maybe even like Jet Williams and, you know, a pick around that range. I would definitely be willing to consider something like that.
Doc, you wanted to
Quick-
jump back in. What do you got?
Yeah, very quick shout out for round 42. Somehow Brody Brecht made it that long. I don't know how that makes any sense. I think that,
Yeah,
that
that
guy's
was
got
great.
that guy's stuff has been
Yeah.
comped to Skeens. Probably a closer, but who cares? Like if you've got Skeens-esque kind of stuff as a closer, it doesn't really matter if you're in Colorado or
Well,
not.
and I just
Oh,
wanted to throw it in there real quick. They fixed Chase Dolander, who, right, coming into the 2023 collegiate season was the number one SP off the board before Skeens became Skeens, right? So Dolander falls back, loses some of his mechanical abilities at Tennessee, gets drafted by Colorado. They get him right back to form as a dominant starting pitcher. Maybe they can do the same thing for Brody Brecht, who at Iowa had issues with control and mechanics. Like if they can fix his mechanics, he could still be a starter. And that again then changes the entire profile we've been drafting him as this offseason.
It's super high upside. Walcott, Griffin, Farmello, Burkholder, Tyson Lewis, Mike Sirota, and then even or I think something Mobley. I'm not clicking on. We got to run through this guy's team. Was Chase Mobley? Anyway, he's got some really fun, buzzy FYPD guys. This team is like, if you're going to rebuild, he's doing a pretty good job at it. So
Harold Rivas, 49th.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happens for the Las Vegas 51s. He was worth putting a couple extra seconds on for him here. He's been working hard on his team.
Just
all right,
one
let's
thing.
move on.
Just
What
one
do you
thing.
got,
One thing I want to say. One thing I want to say in the Brecht topic, if I may. I was actually talking with a guy I know who he's a scout. He was telling me that he had recommended Brecht as early as I think to the Red Sox at 112 is where he thought he would go, and he compared the stuff to Skeens. So I really do think just to get that kind of upside in round 42 is really good value. Colorado aside.
Yeah, we're gonna have to see, right? He's a guy that I think we could be looking back in years from now and saying, how is he not taken higher? But he looked bad at Iowa at times. He looked bad, so we're gonna have to hold on. All right, next team on the board is the Bayou Bengals, and yep, another team with a lot of trades. I'm gonna hit on first couple rounds, pass it to Owen, and then Doc. Once he passes it to you, hit those trades. Junior Caminero, first pick. I think we all love that. We talked about maybe he could have gone a little bit earlier. Followed up by Ali Rutschman in the second. I like that move a lot. Rutschman had the thumb injury last year, fell off pretty hard. We have another catcher. Interesting. Hate that. We have Yanni Diaz going in the third round. Interesting. Zach Gallen, who had been traded. Xavier Edwards in the fifth. Josh Lowe in the sixth. We have, let's see here, Brooks Lee in the seventh. That's a little early. Raniel Blanco in the eighth. Andrew Abbott in the ninth. Lugo in the 10th. I do like that pick. Doc, actually go over the trades real quick and then pass it to Owen.
Sure thing, Haas. This guy's our resident Louisiana, deep Southern. He's out there fighting gators and catching shrimp with his bare hands. This is the Bayou Bengals. He took Chase Burns and Shrek, not the ogre, this random prospect from Toronto, and he gave up Seth Lugo, Jordan Romano, and Carter Jensen. So he's banking on Chase Burns being an absolute stud, which is Frankly, I'm not really into the trade too much, but it could easily pan out if Lugo completely falls off, which could happen, and Jensen doesn't really turn out to be much, which also could happen. It's a really interesting trade to see what happens going forth.
Wow,
The
this
next
trade.
It's crazy trade. You're talking about the next trade or that trade?
Yeah, no, the Adley Rutschman trade.
He trades Adley Rutschman essentially for Zahir Hope, Cooper Pratt. Those are the big pieces there. Which
That's
is
a bad. I'm sorry, that's a bad trade.
I think he didn't get enough.
Yeah,
I think he didn't get enough.
I would have given him double.
Yeah, so it's weird because got like Jesse Winker in there. Like, what are you trying to go for it now? Like, I don't know, right? So we'll see what happens. Then he traded Zach Gallen. It's going to be passed around. This is the first Zach Gallen trade. We already talked about it. Moving on, we talked about the Liam Hendricks trade. We talked about this on the last podcast. He traded Moises Ballesteros for Stephen Kwan. In this league, that actually is a good trade. Kwan is annoyingly useful or randomly useful. It's not annoying. He's probably a nice guy. It's randomly useful in a points league. He trades Emmett Sheehan to Ross Jensen because of course he does. Ross loves Sheehan for Tyler Black, who I'm kind of out on. He has no position. So, but hey, hoping for a redemption story. Gosh, I feel bad. I like Bayou Bengals. He's one of our coolest GMs. I like this guy. He trades. He trades Cameron Sullivan, Jesse Winker for Jake Bloss. That's like mid for mid.
I like that.
And so it's like random. And then we
I
talk
like
about
that
this
for
other
both sides.
Yeah. And then he just randomly gave away Ryan Stanek for a 10th round pick. Bro, I don't like your deals. You should have came to me for some guru advice, but no. Hey, he's making his trades, and frankly, there's just so many moving pieces in them that they could work out. They could work out.
I would have rather he traded Yainer Diaz for those pieces and kept Rutschman. Owen, what did you think of some of the moves and then overall the roster that he currently has?
I agree with what has kind of been said about Rutschman earlier. Is honestly, I think it's lacking at worst another impact top MLB prospect with high upside. I do think that trade for Diaz probably still would have gotten it done, and I still feel like it would have been lacking a piece in there, but would have been a little closer in my eyes. Trades aside, I don't really love the roster. Caminero at 120, I feel like was a good pick. I don't like doubling up on catchers at all there. I feel kind of indifferent about Edwards and Lowe there. I like the Edwards pick. Lowe, I like a good bit too. And then just I'll just jump right into the prospects side. I really like Job there at 27-11, that first prospect round. I like following that up with Caglione. You've got a really high upside arm, really high upside bat. I like that Ballesteros for Quan deal. I love Ballesteros, but Quan in a points league is I significantly, in my opinion, more valuable than Quan in a Cats league. Getting on down, even to some of the later picks, I really like Alex Freeland there in round 33. Then some of these, I like Sam Aldigiri in 38, and then Blake Burke in the 40th. Kyle DeBarge in round 42 was a target of mine. I like that pick a lot. Trying to go down some of these guys who aren't traded. One of my really favorite ones that wasn't mentioned is Trace Bright in the 48th. He could be a really breakout pitching prospect this year. I really like good
2023 class. Is that right?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay.
And then I like a couple of these late round relievers too, with Sean Reynolds in round 52 and Jakob in round 56.
Doc, what do you think? Quick thoughts.
I got basically nothing to say. I said what I need to say. And we have no more trades until Ross Jensen, which is many teams away, and I'm
Thank
so
goodness.
excited about that because I want to get into the actual teams. Let's do it. Sorry, Bayou Bengals. I think you need to keep on trading. That's my inspiration. I'm trying to inspire you to trade even more and
trade with us.
I tell you what, I like Cole Carrig. I think that's a fun pick, and Jack Kaggs, Jackson Jobe. There you go. Those are studs to start off. I like the first two rounds. There you go, buddy.
All right, moving on. We're actually making halfway decent time today.
Don't say that.
I take it back. Knock on wood. Sava 21887, who also, if you're listening, we would love a name change just for a little more consistency here. If not, you can be known as Sava 21887. First pick 121 was Logan Gilbert, followed up immediately by his second SP, Corbin Burns. Then going to the third pick, I absolutely did not like. I am sorry. Spencer Steer, his first position player off the board, followed by Brenton Doyle and Avisel Garcia. Going back to pitcher with Carlos Rodon in the 6th. 7th was Hassan Kim, now of the Tampa Bay Rays. 8th, Sonny Gray. 9th, Lane Thomas. 10th, Luis Garcia Jr. for Houston, coming off Tommy John, followed by Darvish. Doc, I'm going to kick it to you. I don't love this team.
Yeah, this guy was a real jerk to me a couple times. He was like, "Yo," I don't care. I'm going to take the whole clock if I have to." And I'm like, "No, make your pick right now." We had a few battles, but hey, he's still here. He didn't back down. He kept it. He started. We got some sparks back and forth, but he went in and he got a decent team. He got the memo on the points league. He went heavy pitcher. Gilbert, Burns, Rodon. He's going for it. Gray. Garcia, Darvish, Grant Holmes, I think is super underrated. Dude, that's 7 solid starters right there. So which is so funny. Reese Hoskins here goes in round 12. In our Cats League, we had this crazy guy trying to cut him or trade him for nothing. That's for another episode. But anyway, yeah, you know what? I'm kind of selling and friggin' as much as I've made a bunch of Kyle Gibson jokes in the last couple podcasts I've been on. He's actually oddly useful in this league because he's just gonna get you 180 plus innings, probably at least 170, and that's gonna play some junky innings, but he's gonna eat them, and that translates to value in this league because we're trying to simulate real life. So this guy, yeah, if you need a starting pitcher, go to Sava. And also, if Sava wants to win, he's gonna need some bats because I'm not really super excited about those guys, but maybe they work out. Maybe Tommy Pham's a legend. I'll tell you what, Matt Shaw to start off your prospect round's great. Tim Kent to go up next sucks. So yeah, I like the Cardinals. I like Midwestern teams. For the most part, I'm interested. I just think he's probably a reliever. Speaking of which, Jacob Mizorowski, lights out closer. That will be fun, but would I want to spend my third prospect pick on him? Probably not. I do like Nick York later on as a bounce back. Termar Johnson is super underrated at this point. I actually no one wants to like him. He's still only 20 years old. He's doing enough at second base. I mean, he's just a weird profile. He's kind of like Harry Ford, where he's just got 400 OBP, 200 average. Like, what's going on? But he's actually doing 20-20 kind of power speed, even if he's a little undersized. So as much as I was knocking this guy, Elijah Green, redemption tour. I don't think it's going to happen, but we'll see. Going down here, Brian Holiday. This is a short pitcher I like. Again, probably a little bit of Cardinals bias there or something. I'm not going to say he's going to take the world over, but he's 5'11", so that just anytime you see a pitcher below 6 foot get drafted, he's going to get knocked. And so I look into them if they're going in I think he went somewhere between the 3rd and 5th round in real life. He was high enough that I looked into him and. Apparently, he's got some really good makeup and scouts. It sounded like if he wasn't 5'11", he'd be going a lot higher. So I'm interested in that because Sonny Gray's a real person and he's 5'10". It can happen. So Brian Holiday cost him basically nothing, and that's just like a late round dart throw that I kind of liked.
All right, Owen, before I pass it off to you, I just want to give the listeners a little bit of context to Doc's dislike towards Tim Kent's. I was offering Tim Kent's straight up for a 4th round FYPD in a 15-man and was told to kick rocks. So Tim Kent's, with that logic, is probably outside of some people's top 300 at this point.
That's crazy. That's too crazy. I'm not out on him.
I had 2 teams tell me in our 15-man, in our 4th round, no, straight up, nothing else attached for it. That's wild because I don't disagree with them. I'm offering him because I would rather have the 4th round.
Send him my way. I'll take him for nothing.
All right, Owen, what do you think of this team?
I gotta say, interesting strategy to go pitchers in the first 2 rounds, but I really like that duo of Gilbert and Burns there. I actually disagree with you on the Steer pick. Yeah, he's not going to hit for average, but this is a guy who could get you 25 home runs, 80 plus RBIs, and 20 plus stolen bases. That's got some value in a points league. Looking at
he hasn't done it yet though.
Looking at the rest of the draft, I feel like the only guy in that round hitter wise I would have taken higher is Pasquantino. Okay. And then I like Doyle in the 4th. Don't love Garcia in the 5th. I don't like the Rodon pick either because I feel like with Gilbert, Burns there, you can afford to go a bat there. I think Michael Busch even at that spot would have been a good pick. I'd feel a bit better about that lineup there. And then I really like some of the back end arms he got. Sonny Gray in the 8th. Grant Holmes, as was mentioned. I like Reese Hoskins a lot in the 12th there. Some of these later rounds are kind of wishy-washy. I'll get into the prospect side. Shaw is kind of a slam dunk pick there at 10, in my opinion. I don't love Henson Mizorowski one bit to follow that up. I mean, for me, you're getting 2 potentially elite closers, but not guys that are going to start. Just feel like better use of that kind of prospect capital. I do like the Termarr Johnson pick. I like Nick York also there in 33. Gilbert Diaz, I like too at 36. He's got some great stuff. Obviously, that Diamondbacks rotation is a little crowded, but long term, I see where he's going with that. I also like Yordany Monegro in the 39th too. I think the Red Sox were kind of slow with him to protect him from that Rule 5 draft, but I do think he's viewed very highly in that organization, and I have him as my second favorite Red Sox pitching prospect behind Perales in that system. Getting on a little later, none of these late round prospect picks really stand out to me, but yeah, I definitely feel like there's a few picks I like kind of sprinkled in there, but definitely a lot of work to do. Don't like Lane Thomas in the 9th round there at all. Even Candelario in the 14th. I mean, fine value, but I still feel like you're at a point where you can get younger, higher upside, probably more of a regular profile there. Other than that, yeah, that's all I got for that team. Definitely just really a few picks I like sprinkled in there. I like that one too, but other than that, don't love this team.
All right, moving on. We have the Charlotte Knights coming in at 122. First pick off the board was Jose Ramirez, followed up by O'Neill Cruz, Cal Raleigh, Joe Ryan in the 4th, Ian Happ 5th, Mitch Keller in the 6th, Brandon Nimmo in the 7th, Gleyber Torres in the 8th, Lucas Ursig. This was, I think, before the news broke, maybe just a matter of days or hours. Paul Goldschmidt in the 10th. And then first prospect off the board, Dylan Cruz would have been the 9th pick of the prospect draft, followed up by Thomas White, which we like, Bryce Rainier. I think a solid start to that prospect round. Owen, what are your thoughts?
Sorry, looking to pull up this team real quick. That prospect round.
Amateur, bro. Amateur, you're cut. Today, Junior.
Says the guy who's gone over his time how many times?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Back to the Charlotte Knights. What do we think?
You're low energy. You're low energy, Owen.
I got it. I don't like Cruz there at 9 overall. I just feel like there's kind of higher upside prospects that went a few picks later I would have preferred there. I like Thomas White and Rayner to follow that up. Santiago Suarez as well. I don't love Seaver King or Ricky Tiedemann in 31 or 32. I do like some of these later round. I feel like it's kind of redeems it a little bit. Alfredo Duno, Ty Pete, and Jared Thomas in 34, 35, and 30.
Yeah, those are nice.
I really like Lisbel Diaz as well in round 43 and Kaner Benitez in round 44. Blake Larson in round 49 is I know there's a lot of command risk there, but stuff wise, I can kind of see the Shane McClanahan upside comps.
Who is this?
This Blake Larson.
Blake Larson. Okay.
Yeah, and I also like I really like Gage Zeal there in round 53. So I feel like some of these later round picks really highlight some of the prospect picks, but I don't love some of those early picks.
Real quick, you had mentioned Cruz. I want to just throw some names out for people listening so that they can get a reference point. Cruz again went 1-9 essentially in the prospect draft. Matt Shaw followed. Jackson Jobe went right after. Then Walcott and Bazana. Who of those 4 are you taking over Cruz?
Shaw, Jobe, and Walcott.
Okay, I think I would actually agree with you on that. Okay, Doc, what do you think of this team?
I like it. I think he could be a contender this year. I'm not sure if this guy's been talking too much, maybe just a little bit here and there. But in terms of our Discord activity, but I like it, man. It's just like a super. It's ready to win now. I'm really big on Goldschmidt in New York. I think that's a lot of fun. I think it's just got there's a lot of upside, like sneaky upside through his his rounds 10 to even rounds like 23. Like there's like something you could hope for with a lot of his picks to win now, which is really important in terms of like depth is going to win you championships in a league this deep.
Alec Thomas, 21, and Drury, I think, are those guys that you're definitely referencing.
Yeah. It's like maybe they suck, but maybe they don't. Like there's definitely there's a lot worse picks I saw. Like I don't want Craig Kimbrell in round 21. I'm seeing or Kyle Hege, this guy's name.
Higashioka, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you so much. I don't want that guy. It's in round 21. But anyway, the prospects. It's a pretty hot start. Cruz, Thomas White, my boy, Bryce Rainier. I think it's like with these prep guys. I was on Tim Kanak's podcast podcast last night. He's iffy. He's like, I don't have any data on these prep guys. I'm like, well, that's where you can make your profit if things work out. You just gotta kind of trust the scouts a fair bit on those. Yeah, not super excited about Seaver King or Ricky. I agree with a lot of Owen's assessments. If we want to look at that, we're getting along. Cole Mathis is kind of an intriguing guy for me in round 41. He has TJ going on his elbow, but sounds like he's got some sneaky, like he's just a big boy, got some power. I think I'm hearing that it's like he's using power over bat speed, so we'll see what happens. I think you can increase bat speed, and you can't really teach
30 seconds.
David Shields is I like the Lisbel Diaz play too, by the way, in round 43. But no one's really talking about David Shields. They're talking maybe more DeGroat even or Beam, Kyle Beam, Drew Beam, I think his name is from Kansas City. Kyle DeGroat, Drew Beam, and then Kansas City, David Shields. He was actually their second round pick. There's some things about him that have me interested. Last guy I'll talk about is Emilian. What's his name? He's Canadian French guy. Emilian Pitre. Anyway, he's that's an interesting guy. He's like super unsexy, but there's enough going on, and he's a second baseman. There's just nothing going on at that position that I think there was a nice signing bonus attached to it. So I'm interested to see what they could do with him in Tampa.
It's a Meadroth type profile in my opinion.
Yeah, that's what I got from it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you're looking at most 5 home runs, but you're going to get a good average, good OBP. That's kind of, I think, what they're banking on there. Maybe I feel like he kind of fits that kind of Trey Morgan molds that they've kind of gone after, as in, let's get these guys with the good hit tool, good approach, see if we can get maybe average to fringe power come along.
Round 48.
Nice.
Let's do it.
All right, moving on. We have a battle of the Knights. We move on from the Charlotte Knights to the South Tampa Knights at 123. Mookie Betts first off the board, followed by William Contreras, Josh Naylor, Colton Cowser. Round 5, we have Nick Lodolo. Round 6, Reese Olson. Round 7, Felix Bautista. Kind of nice value on Bautista there. Cade Smith going in the 8th. Justin Martinez going in the 9th. Matt Vierling in the 10th. Owen, I'm going to let you kick it off here just real quick. First 3 prospects. We went Mayo, Cam Smith, Brandon Sproat. What do you think, Owen?
No, why is he starting?
You want to start this one?
You started for like the past 3 in a row.
Are you no, you started the last. I just finished the last one. What are you talking about?
Doc, start us off.
I'm starting us off, Haas.
Oh, come on.
Anyway.
No, let me start. You can't just leave me like that. Don't give me that clip.
Okay.
I'm ready to roll.
Okay. No, too bad.
Right.
Reese Olson, round 6 is solid. He's my guy. I think I disagree with Matt considerably that Felix Bautista, a guy coming back off pretty serious injury as a closer, is a good value. It's not
Who's the
not my
competition
move.
there though? Yennier
So
Cano has shown that he can't hold down that role long term. Kimbrel's
Let's see what
gone.
happens. This guy's going strong.
He had close to 18 Ks per 9 and was
Yeah,
almost the best closer of all time in fantasy in 2023.
There's no discount. You're not getting a discount. You're
I
actually.
would-
I think round 7
would-
is
I
a
would-
pretty big discount.
I would argue that when healthy, he's right behind Emmanuel Clase.
I would take him over Clase if healthy, because Clase can't
So-
strike anybody out.
Well, I'm hoping for the guy. I'm not gonna sit here and like, yeah, he's gonna friggin' suck. Like, I hope he sucks.
Injury is fair, Doc. I give you that. Like,
I'm not
he
that
may
guy.
never become the guy he was. It's a fair statement.
So here's the deal. I actually like a lot of his. I kind of intrigued by his earlier picks, and he kind of loses me with that depth I was just talking about with the other team. I'm not sure if the depth is there as much with the rest of his major league picks. I'm just going to jump straight down to Sixto Sanchez. I'm going to jump right down to Kobe Mayo. Yeah, post hype. It's kind of interesting to see him still going in the top 10. I think he should, but people have typically they're forgetting about Kobe Mayo. I think he's going to be a stud. He goes back to back. He really wants to fill that third base slot with Cam Smith, Sproat, Acuna. These are all cool. Bradfield. Yeah, I mean, one trick pony, but it's a good pony. Going down. Curé is an interesting pitcher. Let's go here. I mean, I'm seeing there's some fun little picks, but I think this team needs some work. South Tampa, we love having you in the league. Sorry for not being that enthusiastic about your team. I think you got to start rebuilding. That's my thought. I think your farm and your MLB just aren't where they need to be right now. Pick one, go for it, either direction.
I like actually his prospects all the way down to Graves. Duel Joseph obviously has been horrible, but he could bounce back, was given big money. Jose Lugo, kind of the same thing, has been better than Joseph, but needs to show more with the Angels. Owen, what do you think?
I actually like this team, honestly. Like, I don't love. I mean, personally, I wouldn't look at a catcher as early as he did with Contreras. Personally, it just I feel like even in a 30-man where catchers, you could realistically end up starting a catcher who is a backup. Still, it's just not a position I value highly enough to go there in round two. But I like Betts. I don't like Naylor in round three. I like his 4 through 9 picks with Kauser, Lodolo, Olson, Bautista, Smith, and Justin Martinez. That's a nails bullpen right there, and couple upside starters there. And then I like some of these later round picks too. So I'll disagree with Doc. I really like Clay Holmes in the 11th there. I like Jose Miranda in the 13th, Stanton in the 14th too. This is a points league. Even if the average isn't there and the K's are going to hurt you, he's going to get you those home runs. Getting on a little later kind of loses me at there. I don't love the prospect picks. I kind of view Mayo similarly how I did to Cruz, as few guys went behind that I'd rather have. But I mean, not a bad pick there. Power upside is definitely there. Cam Smith went probably a round early for my liking. I have him as a top 80-ish prospect. Just feel like there were some better options available there. I like Sprout there. Luis Angel Acuna is fine there, although not big on him. Don't love Bradfield in the 31st there. I like what he does after that with Luis Morales and George Lombard. I like Chris Rodriguez there in the 34th. Same with Yoniel Corrette and Lugo. Joseph too definitely needs has a big X factor this year in the Mariners farm, but still has that big money in that prospect type. Getting on, I really like Mavis Graves there as well in the 39th. And then even some of these later round ones, I really like Ethan Schiefelbein. He's a guy that I'm pretty big on. Pretty solid arsenal for a prep arm and good command. It's always in my opinion, a good foundation for high school arms. And then I do like, lastly, kind of some of these kind of lose me in these last few rounds, but I really like Carter Holton there as well in the 50th. Undersized starter, but just pitch it Vandy. Obviously, going to the Braves. Kind of, there's a lot to like there, in my opinion.
Moving on, we are going to 124 with New Britain. First pick off the board is Francisco Lindor, followed up by Michael Harris, Aaron Nola. And I think, Owen, that's kind of what you were mentioning Josh Naylor or Aaron Nola. Like, Nola's clearly the better player, in my opinion. 4 was Brandon Wu. 5, Cedane Rafaela, clearly a believer. Michael Toglia in the 6, another, I guess, buy high. Matt Wallner in the 7th, clearly going for breakouts here. First prospect off the board was Walker Jenkins, like that. Xavier Isaac, interesting with the Ks, but upside. And then Jason Chirio in the 29th. Oh, and what do you think of New Britain?
Yeah, I got to say, I don't love this team just from a bat perspective, especially in a points league. There's a lot of guys here that are going to hurt you with the Ks. Rafaela, Toglia, Wallner, Gorman there in the 10th, then Stowers in the 14th. It's real, like, there's definitely some upside there with the lineup, but just in my opinion, that's going to be a big hole for this team. I do like Wu in the 4th there. But to me, I don't love the lineup, don't love the rotation. Prospect wise, I like Jenkins there. Xavier Isaac, I can get behind there. Still have some kind of questions about the contact, and he's kind of slowly falling for me, but aggressive assignment could very well bounce back this year. Jason Chorio, I love there. I really view him as a guy who could be a top 25 prospect by the end of 25. Eduardo Tate, I like there as well. Sean Sullivan, a little early for my liking, just lacks that plus secondary pitch, and the fly ball rate. It's going to be a problem for Coors. So not a guy I'm overly huge on. Some of these later picks I do kind of like. I like Yasser Mercedes there in the 41st. Kind of showed the flashes of kind of what made him a top prospect last season. I like Jorge Quintana as well. That next rounds. And then another guy I really like later rounds. A lot of guys seem to forget about him is Jack Hurley in the 53rd. Coming out of Virginia Tech last year in the 23 draft. Definitely not the pro season you'd hope for, but I do think there's a lot of upside there. Needs to cut the approach, but Diamondbacks are still very high on him. I like what I've kind of seen so far in terms of just how he can look if all the tools come together. But
yeah, 53 is great value.
I do think this team, between both the lineup, the rotation, and the prospects, it doesn't really have an area that really stands out to me.
Doc, what do you think about New Britain?
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking Hurley too. I'm like, yeah, what happened to him? He was like a sleeper guy last year, so it's good to have him. I think round 40 is another guy who's no one talks about. One guy in our salary cap league actually asked about him, Victor Lizarraga. He's been in like the Padres top 10 for a little while in their prospects. He's number 9 now, I think. He was 20 years old last year in Double A, just being super boring. Like I think he had about a 4 ERA or something like that. But as a 20-year-old, like pretty much, especially as a pitcher, 20-year-old at Double A, pretty young for the level, and he upped his Ks, which was kind of something people were looking for. Write the name down, Victor Lizarraga. I target him at value where I can. I'm sitting here and I'm wanting to cut him actually because there's all these shiny new toys in our salary cap league. We have our prospects just opened up there. I can't cut him. I'm like, that's stupid. That's really stupid. Because this guy's showing that he can stick and he's in a good system. So write that name down. The team, that we're talking about right now, New Britain, they're weird. I don't really know what he wants to do. I think I can see a pretty easy shift here though. If he wants to send Lindor and Nola for some younger assets, I think a rebuild should be in order here. I think he's not going to win this year. I think he's going to realize that by the deadline. Hopefully he can, capitalize on some value and just build for the future. Toglia, I'm not a believer in. There's a bunch of issues for me with this team. But I do like a lot of the prospects. I think Caminiti's a lot of fun. I think Tate, Toria, we're in agreement with these guys. So they'll see what the future holds for them. I don't, it's you never know what can work out. But the prospect and the youth side here, even like a guy like Gorman, if he just survives and shows he can hang, still that's not going to save this team. But it's a good building block for the future.
All right, we're moving on, gentlemen. We are getting very, very close to finishing here. We are on to the creator of Scout the Stat Line, Ross Jensen.
Man.
So let's get that trade action
All right.
brought up there, Doc. We got Bryce Harper, Yamamoto 2, Senga 3. This was the Asian draft for Mr. Ross Jensen. We have Suzuki from Chicago going 4th round, Bryson Stott going 5th, Adrian Munoz going 6th round, Randy Arozarena 7th, Taylor Ward from Anaheim going 8th, Andres Jimenez 9th, Jeffrey Springs in the 10th. Jensen went Basalo, who I think he ended up trading. Doc will touch on that. Franklin Arias for the Red Sox in the 2nd. Ballsy pick. I liked it. Welvin Francisco, another ballsy pick on the turn there for the 3rd. We have Cuero for the White Sox as his 4th prospect.
Jacob Wilson, Ketel Marte, Franklin were traded for Franklin Arias, Samuel Basayo, Welvin Francisco. So this was the big trade. And so that's the big trade. And so it's worth talking about before we get into it. And so that went from Tyndalltown was Wilson and Marte. Frankly, I see it for both sides, but I love Basayo. Marte's an absolute stud right now. Will Wilson play up in the points league? Clearly Ross is banking on it.
I like Bryce Harper there I like Bryce Harper there in the 25th. Other than Yamamoto and 2-6. Probably not the route I would have gone. Feel like there were a couple arms I would have had a little bit higher. Don't love Senga there in the 3rd either. I do like Suzuki and Stott, how he kind of follows that up in 4 or 5. Munoz was a round or 2 early for my liking. Don't love Arozarena there in the 7th. Playing in that park. Ks are going to hurt. Lineup doesn't really stand out to me, but I do like some of these late arms that he gets with Jeffrey Springs, David Peterson. I'm still a Reed Detmers believer. So I like those 3. Tyler Mahle as well in the 14th. Going to the prospect rounds, you mentioned the trade. Basayo, Arias, Francisco were traded. Even outside of that, there's some prospects here I like. I like Edgar Cuero in the 30th. Don't love Starlin Caba there in the 33rd. I do like Vladdy Guerrero and Demori Pena in 35 and 37. Getting on a little bit with this. I like some of these later round ones too. I like Deturi in the 49th. I was hoping he would fall a little later to me, but really advanced eye, some good contact skills. Other than that, that's all I got for this team. I do think that it's kind of got the looks of a win now team, but not quite a team I'd put there as an immediate contender. So I think some work needs to be done. And
interesting. So I'm going to interject real quick before we get to I'm kind of mid, who's also made some trades. So Doc, make sure you have those guys ready. I'm sure you already have them. We have Bayou Bengals in our Discord right now asking for an on-air trade. He's been trying to trade Junior Caminero for what I think is about 3 weeks now. And no one has clearly met his value. So I just offered him Drew Jones, Max Fried, and a first-round pick, and was told yet again not meeting his value. So I'm very curious if he gets a deal done, if you guys have communicated with him for Caminero, and what the hell he thinks Caminero is actually worth. What do you
Is
guys
this
think?
Bayou Bengals for
Correct.
Camaro? Yeah, he actually he was talking. I can give you just what he wanted from me. He wanted let me pull that up real quick. His proposal was Caminero, Blanco, Soler or Young, and Schneider or Alexander for Keith Soderstrom, Abreu, and Jared Jones, which was a no from me.
Interesting. That's a lot of value.
Yeah, for me it was more like, I don't quite view Caminero in that regard of where I'm going to sacrifice 4 kind of impact pieces for me this year. If it was I was kind of hoping he would get back to me. Like I was thinking an Abreu, DeVries, Kalaz, and maybe a 4th kind of upside prospect in there, but didn't really fit what he was looking for. So kind of became clear to me that still wanted to win now, which just didn't really fit what, didn't want to go Jones, Abreu, Soderstrom, and Keith there.
Doc, have you been trying to get Caminero at all?
No. I mean, his hype is just kind of left the station. It's not the time. I'm trying to get those guys who are going to be the next Caminero. That'd be my move.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think Caminero has a lot of value, right? Like, Owen, I think your trade is fair. I think my trade is fair. It's just like, do you trade a guy that could potentially be a Rafi Devers? And, like, what is that asking price? So I thought that was interesting to talk about.
Some of Ross's guys, because I thought it was worth talking about. This guy just loves the DSL. If you look like his last, like his entire draft, essentially for the prospect portion, other than Wade Meckler, which is that's such a classic Ross pick. I just thought that was great. Vladdy Guerrero, we didn't really touch on. He went Pablo and Vladdy back to back, who are Vladimir Guerrero Sr.'s children with different mothers. Now they got.
I think he did that, Doc, because I had mentioned how pissed I was about him taking Pablo, and I would never have taken. I would never taken his brother next, but I think he did that just thinking that he might not get a chance to take him again, because that's a reach in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's like it was killing me because I would like to have one of them, but I just knew I'm sitting here. I'm like, I know I have to pick Vladdy next because he just friggin' took Pablo. He's got this thing for the Guerrero family, and it's understandable, but I just couldn't do it. Vladdy's got like Vladdy Jr. Vladdy Jr. This is just Vladdy. That's his actual name. It's not Vladimir. It's Vladdy with an I, and he's got some red flags. It's going to take so long for him to figure it out. So. Yeah, we'll see what happens. But certainly Ross is the boss for a reason. He's got an interesting build. Him and I actually run a team together on CBS. It's very funny because we have very different philosophies. But I'm interested to see what he's going to do in this league because he's a serious GM, obviously. And so, Matt, just because I'm going to start off the next one, do you want to just go over the trades for I'm kind of mid?
Yep. So I'm kind of mid, ended up taking the players that I had mentioned earlier. I'll run through them one more time. It was Garrett Crochet, Austin Riley in the second, Vinny P. We have Pico Armstrong, Kyle Manzardo, Gavin Williams, Bowden Francis, David Festa, and that kind of trails us off. But he's moved a number of these players, and I'm going to pull up the trades right now since I had it. Do you have it up by chance, Doc?
Yeah, man. Look, we try to change it up a little bit. He did the crazy Ohtani trade.
Mm-hmm.
The Ohtani trade was the crazy one. Basically, it's more or less Ohtani for Keishel, Vinny Pasquantino. You get Gavin Williams in there. You get AJ
Puck's in there.
Sorry. My apologies. I'm missing the big ticket. Garrett Crochet. That's more like it. But yeah, so it was an interesting haul. I think it's actually a good haul. I think it was a good trade for both teams. Then we've already talked about the Bowmeister trade and the Christian Campbell trade. So
yeah, so he gets Ohtani, and then he also adds, I think, Schwellenbach and Baz. I mean, he's completely rebuilt his team. I think he won the Ohtani trade. We talked about the Jackson Bowmeister trade. Like he does have to hope that Adrian Mojon steps into that rotation at some point. But I think having Schwellenbach as his 1 and Baz as his 2 maybe he slides Ohtani, and I don't think so. I think we're still in conversation about whether Ohtani's day-to-day movable. Did we decide, is he locked in for the week as a hitter or a pitcher? Or
No, this is daily. So
you're
and
gonna
they
allow
knew
him to be
that. They
moved?
knew that at the time of the trade.
Okay, good.
I
Owen, what do you
actually
think?
I was talking to Las Vegas 51s about Schwellenbach originally. He was targeting DeVries, and like I didn't, if I would have realized that Schwellenbach, McLean, and Boz could be had for essentially DeVries, I would have been all over that. So I'm a little bitter about that one.
What do you think overall of the team construction, especially after the trades? Because he's moved a lot of his, early pieces, but has definitely built around the youth. And I think the staple now is Austin Riley and Vinny P. Or did he move Vinny P? He didn't move Vinny P. Okay, so it's really just Austin Riley is like the first guy in his trades that he hasn't moved.
Yeah, I mean, I think the team's got a clear direction. I don't mind like kind of seeing guys out for a rebuild, but kind of I don't know, just kind of the fantasy GM in me is like, why are we doing kind of both win now moves and kind of rebuild moves at sometimes when I'm kind of looking at these from the outside in, but I definitely think he's looking long term. I think some of the trades have definitely aimed to address that and look more to, I'd say, 27 and beyond.
Yeah, I think that's definitely where he's going. And I've drafted with him in a number of leagues. I'm in probably 3 or 4 leagues with I'm kind of mid, and he really likes Scott the Young approach. I thought it was interesting he traded Crochet for Ohtani because Crochet falls into that more younger profile, especially with Vinny P. But he's taking on that veteran presence that has such a huge upside. I mean, if you just look at it from 126, having Ohtani, if you could draft him there in a daily league, I think Ohtani arguably could be the 1-1 pick with Witt when you know that you could possibly get a pitcher out of him for maybe 2 years, maybe it's longer, but you also get the hitter. All right, we're moving on. We are at 127, so we've got 4 teams left.
Let me talk about I'm kind of mid.
14. Doc, swinging back to you for I'm kind of mid.
Yeah. So yeah, this is. I think we basically covered it, but I wanted to give a shout out to Bowden Francis because this guy added a sinker late last year and became a literal part of the league winning championship team for me in a 20-man redraft, and he was available on free agency at some point. I put in a fab bid in for him, and it was very critical for my team. I'm kind of mid seems to really know ball. I like a lot of his picks. Again, I do agree with Owen and that the direction of the team is weird. I don't know what's going on right now. There's a lot of sneaky moves that I think maybe he'll end up kind of mid. It's his self prophecy. This guy's a veteran, and I appreciate his service, and he's very fun to have in the Discord. Very unique person. I think if I want to give a shout out to any pick in particular in the prospect world, I'll go to Ryan Gusto. He actually was supposed to have a start and make his debut at the end of last season. His game got rained out, so expect Hayden Wesneski to win the 5th rotation spot as of right now in Houston. But Gusto will be breathing down his neck, knocking on the doorstep. Put another euphemism or metaphor in there. He is one of those Houston Astros pitching prospects. Nothing really looks super sexy about it, but that they can make him come out of nowhere.
Yeah, he will be entering his age 26 season, drafted 2019 from Houston. I think it's a good name, right? Drafted for depth, got a guy for depth in the 48th that may turn into a starter. I think there's value there for sure.
This next team sucks.
Yeah, this next team is pretty bad. Coming in at 127, we have the Trash Pandas, which was my team. Took Yuri Perez, 127. Took Spencer Strider, 2nd round. Mason Miller, closer off the board in the 3rd. Max Fried in the 4th. I took my first bat in Christian Walker in the 5th, followed by Shane Bieber in the 6th. Matt Chapman, 2nd bat off the board in the 7th. Christian Yelich in the 8th. Ryan Kirkring in the 9th, followed by Trevor Story. A couple more pieces to just touch on. I took Joe Musgrove in the 13th to continue building the rotation. I took Alex Manoah in the 16th to continue building the rotation. I went pitching heavy, and I leaned on the fact that I was hoping that veteran bats would fall. My outfield is definitely my weakness, so I took Roman Anthony as my first prospect off the board. So Anthony, Christian Yelich, and then trying to pair that 3rd outfielder, which is going to be a risk. I have Ruiz from Oakland, I guess Sacramento, you could say, and Will Benson. So I'm hoping one of those guys pairs. Doc, what'd you think overall?
Let's you know what? I did just do quite a bit of talking with all the trades. There's no trades for the rest of the thing. Let's do it. Extending the olive branch. Owen, start us off. I would love to have a word at the end.
All right. Yeah, I gotta say, Matt, I'm sorry. I don't like this team one bit. I think like picking from like the 27th spot, and then it's a risky spot to just double up with two arms, because then again, there's a big gap before you're on the board again. And I mean, I know bats are usually more kind of plentiful than arms on waivers in a 30-man, but yeah, I feel like you could have done a little better with kind of the pitcher start. I don't mind Perez there or Strider. I don't love Mason Miller and the third. Maybe it's just my bias for not taking closers early, but Fried in the fourth is a guy I wouldn't have touched. If you're looking for like an injury upside guy, I would have rather Brian Wu there a few picks later.
Wait. So you want a guy that has had an elbow strain for 3 straight seasons over a guy that just signed a $210 million contract?
I don't care what the money was. I'd take Wu over.
Oh, that's ridiculous. Oh, and the world revolves around money. And I'm not arguing just for my team here. The New York Yankees just committed $200 million to a guy over a guy in Seattle that literally has a continuous elbow problem.
And Fried doesn't. I'm just saying, I view Wu with more upside, younger, and in Dynasty, I would take him over Fried without question.
I mean, I'm going to disagree with you there.
Okay. All right.
I'm going to disagree, but that's okay. That's why this is your partner. So keep going.
Yeah. I don't love Bieber there in the 6th either. I mean, I like Kerkering in the 9th. That's really the only pick in the first 10 rounds that I honestly like. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I do like your prospect rounds though, so I'll jump into that. I like Anthony's a slam dunk pick there at 4. I like Burkano in the 29th. Same with Meyer in the 30th. I feel like a lot of people have kind of forgotten about him with Thomas White's rise. I really like some of the middle round arms too with J.R. Ritchie and Maikel Corrette. Same with Owen Hall there in the 39th. Rowdy Reyes as well in the 41st. I like that one a lot. Getting on just some of these more of the. I like JD Dix there is in the 38th too. But yeah, I feel like this team is definitely pitching heavy, but I could have came up with a better combination of starters if I were to replicate a similar approach.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I kind of got caught in a very odd circumstance with. I look back. I don't like Yuri in the first, and I didn't love taking Strider in the second. I kind of took him because I was almost trying to make up for my Yuri pick in the first. Fried I like. Miller I actually like as a 24-year-old closer, right? I'm just trying to. I was thinking to myself, how can I guarantee not having to worry about closers on a 30-man? But I think your concerns are fair, right? Like I banked on a 2026 competitive window, completely walk away from 2025, knowing I took Bieber and Manoah and Musgrave. Doc, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I actually, again, like with a points league, if you're going to do a pitcher heavy approach, that's the time to do it. I would argue maybe Strider's going to look like a value in the second round. Yuri Perez and Strider is super sexy. I do see where you're going with the Mason Miller pick in terms of like he could easily be the best pitcher closer in baseball for like the next 10 years, it's a very conceivable possibility. Fried in the 4th, I mean, he again, yeah, money does talk. I think he's super boring, but again, boring will play especially in a points league, just logging those innings. K's are nice too. Christian Walker, this guy is like kind of like Goldie. So, they just had some nice landing spots, and their value was already, so they're actually Christian Walker is not like Goldie in that I think people are anticipating him just kind of falling off sooner than later. If you look at his Savant page, like he actually improved last year versus the year before, I believe. But at the very least, he was still just crushing it. So a lot of not sexy picks here, but I think I don't know what your bats are going to do this year. Esteri Ruiz is like a fun 15th round swing.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, how many stolen bases did he have 2 years ago? 60? 70? Like it was crazy.
He had 67.
People forget about. I forgot about it. Then I saw it. I'm like, oh yeah, that wasn't in the minor leagues. He really did that. So, yeah, Manoah, you're living on a prayer there, but that's like a fun one. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I think it's not going to be this year for you. especially, with Strider and Yuri being out. I think you probably are conceding that, but
Yep.
next year it's a fun place to start, and I do love a lot of your prospect picks. Getting some fun prep value possibly with Theo Gillen in the 33rd round. I haven't brought myself to pick him yet because I'm scared about. I like Tampa Bay prospects at a certain point. I like them when they cost basically nothing because they're really good at developing, but I also don't know what's going to happen when they get to like the AAA level, like when they're on the cusp, and then in the big leagues more than anything. Are they going to just mess around with them, platoon them? I don't friggin' know, man. So you took some fun swings. Chris Cortez is like a real electric, supposed to be reliever coming out of. Owen seems to know that he's Vanderbilt guys. I believe he's a Vanderbilt kid. Chris Cortez.
A&M.
A&M.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So he was not the same colors or something. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. But Cortez was expected to be this like real gas delivering, electric stuff kind of closer contender. But apparently the Angels are going to stretch him out. So keep an eye on him. He's someone that both Matt and I are big fans of. So and the last guy, I'm just going to say 5 seconds. Knipp here, the catcher. I remember seeing that he's got crazy EVs. And I think Clegg might have given him a shout out, but I know he has some really good EVs. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, Knipp was a two-way player at Campbell, big-time fastball catcher, big-time power. When you see him on the field, he looks like a 30-year-old playing in college. Just 50th round, he's a dart throw, and that's kind of what we're doing here. I think another name to mention, the guy that's completely fallen off, especially the impact of FYPDs, is Colin Houck. He was a guy that was really sought after in FYPDs in 2023. 2023, 2024 FYPD, horrible strikeouts. I mean, levels that are concerning, kind of like Green from Washington. But I think it's funny how guys can lose that helium so quickly. And, at 19 years old, still has a chance to maybe turn it around. Probably not. We're moving on to your team at 128, Doc. I'm going to actually just pass it off to you and let you take the reins here.
Greatest team of all time, brought to you by me and God. Oh man, we're doing it. We're doing it here. I actually would rather play. Just twice in a row now. I'd rather play like I put myself on the defense here because I know Owen will have problems with it. So let's hear it. Let's hear from both of you first, actually, and then I'll come in and if there's anything I want to defend or anything you liked, then I guess something I don't have to talk about.
Owen, go ahead and start us off.
All right, yeah. I like Reagan's in the first there, but I feel like just starting off bat wise with Holiday and Walker, it's banking on a lot to click. I don't think Holiday is going to be ever going to be that above average power guy. So I think you're banking on a lot for him to just be like a 300 type hitter. I'm just not sure I quite see that, at least in the near future. So it's personally not my approach, but I can respect going for the upside early. I don't like Bellinger there in the third. Everyone just talks about, Yankee Stadium is this hitter's paradise. It's actually more of a neutral park than anything. And personally, I think that we're going to get something in between of like some slight above average with maybe 20 home runs. And that's just not third round value to me. So personally, not the route I would have gone. I do kind of like Maikel Garcia there in the sixth. Same with Ryan Walker and Ryan Weathers in the seventh and eighth. I don't love Scott there in the ninth. Birdsong and Wisniewski are some interesting picks in the 10th and 11th. I like Hoffman there in the 12th a lot. I know like everyone looks at the physical and has their concerns, but I really do think he can be Toronto's closer. And I think just getting a primary closer there in the 12th round when a lot are kind of going off the boards, even like projected ones 2 to 3 rounds earlier, is pretty good value. Getting on to I've seen some interesting things about Henry Davis's swing change. So that, I like kind of banking on a former number 1 overall pick there in the 16th round. Getting on a little down to the prospect wise. Painter over Anthony was a little bold for my liking, but I can respect it. The guy's an argument to be the best pitching prospect in the game. I don't mind Augustine Ramirez in the 28th. It's probably a round or 2 earlier than I would have personally taken him. Don't like Durbin there in the 29th, but I'm sure you probably got that already. Don't love Thorpe in the 31st there either. Like, to me, just the stuff isn't great. He's not a ground ball machine, in my opinion, at least to the level that like Webb is, to where he actually has some good fantasy value because he'll give you the innings and the quality starts. To me, like he's going to be a 4 or 5. Just personally, I feel like when I'm drafting for prospect wise, I would go for a higher upside player there. I do like what you did in some of these later rounds, so not to beat up on you too much. I like Cole Drake in the 35th, Carter Johnson in the 36th, Peyton Elis and Callan Moss as well in the 37th and 39th. I like Synard. I like Luke Synard a lot in the 49th. Tommy John surgery last year, so didn't pitch, but the stuff is great. And obviously in the Braves organization, gotta like it. Gotta like that landing spot. Other than that, yeah, that's all I got. I think a lot of it is just banking on a lot of upside. I think it's a team a year or two away, but if everything clicks, could be a fun team.
Neighbors was great, 41-3. I think Neighbors is the closer for San Diego 5-6 years. Don't think it'll happen this year because they're paying Adams and they're paying Suarez, but Neighbors is electric. You have to look back to his 2023 season and just look at those numbers. He had a little bit of a down collegiate year in 2024. And Doc, I get the Holiday Walker. I did that in our categories league. It was hard because you're trying to bank on upside and you're drafting right next to me. I think Walker probably could have fell to the 5th, but knowing your proximity to me, you had to take him, right? And that was the same thing that I ran into in categories. It's like with us drafting in the same draft and having the same approach towards Walker, which we think he will bounce back and, be an above average player. But it's hard because I would put the same kind of conversation into like, if I were to really take Walker over Fried in a vacuum, I'm probably taking Fried, but it's not a vacuum, right? We both think Walker can have upside. So I'll pass it over to you, Doc, and talk about it.
Yeah, that worked out pretty well. So I guess it was being near the end of the first round of the major league draft. I kind of just realized early on I'm probably going to shoot for next year. I'm not going to rule out this year, but I want to go upside. So I think actually Owen pretty much nailed it for the most part. Obviously, we have our disagreements on some of the players, but yeah, the general thing was just like swing for upside. And if I do it enough, I think we'll have some fun here. Lot of young upside pitchers, which is kind of riskier in because you want those innings in a points league. And I think that's where a guy like Drew Thorpe comes in, where even if he is kind of having a struggle year, it's like I think he's going to give you 150 plus innings, which at worst he's like a Kyle Gibson type this year. Which again, I keep bringing his name up because he's such a grinder. We'll see what happens with all that. And I would say that Chris Martin I got in the 20th round. So if I do suck this year, I guess I could trade him because he's as of right now the Texas Rangers closer in the 20th. Pretty happy with that one. Jordan Walker, yeah, so we actually forget that he did a 274, 16 home runs, 74 RBI, year already. He did it in his rookie year. It's just like, it's down the memory tube. Last year is all that people can remember right now. So I'm happy taking that swing. And Jackson Holiday, I will say, this is a really in-depth analysis, so I don't expect all of our listeners to fully comprehend what I'm going to say here. But when you're talking about his power, look at his forearms. Look at his wrists. He's friggin' thick. He's got Matt Holliday as his. That was a little bit of jokey sarcasm, folks. So it's a little bit silly, but realistically, this guy, a lot of your power for home runs in the bigs actually does come from forearms, and that's a real thing. And Matt Holliday is actually a pursued hitting coach. I just love the idea that he gets that access to that at every offseason, at all times, basically, whenever Matt's not working with some other clients. But if there's anyone who's going to come back from an age 20 season, I think Holiday is a great pick. I'm excited for this team. It's going to be a really weird team because if guys like Durbin and Ailey actually come in and be useful in a points league, kind of like a Kwan or even better, maybe. Like, I don't know, maybe I can compete this year, but that's not it's a bonus at this point.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a really good point. Drafting at the back end of the draft, like at least my approach was who has the most trade value in 2026. And when you get past round 5 or 6, it's like it's kind of the injury prone guys or the guys with injury, right? We're looking at what their value is today. Well, in my opinion, the value of Shane Bieber in a year from now could drastically be better or it could be worse, right? But drafting at the back half, not getting the young guys like Ellie De La Cruz and Junior Caminero. Like we were forced to kind of find that value. And Owen, you had that issue in the categories league. All right, moving on. 129. We've got 2 teams left. We've got Jaron Duran coming off the board at 129 in the first round, followed by Rafael Devers, Peralta in Milwaukee in the third, Luis Heel in the fourth, Christopher Sanchez in the fifth, Jake Berger in the sixth, Jeremy Pena in the seventh, and Jonathan India in the eighth. Doc, go ahead and kick us off for Hartford.
All right. Well, I went in pretty in depth with my own there, but I'll see what I can talk about here. I love Christopher Sanchez in the 5th round. I think this guy's super underrated. He's got his changeup grades out to like a 16 or 18 run value on Savant. It's disgusting. It's like everything people talk bad about changeup guys, but if you're gonna do it, that's the way you got to do it. Drew Thorpe, take notes. Let's do it, buddy. Keep going. Jake Berger, we're so funny, right? Jake Berger, totally write him off. Yeah, he's just a one-trick pony. And Miami Marlins, gross, kind of unsexy. Goes to the Texas Rangers. We're like, oh, we can all see that. He's already got a marketing deal with Whataburger, I think. If you don't know, it's a Whataburger is a Texas burger chain. It's a fun little start there. I actually do like it, genuinely. India seems like one of those boring points guys who could work out. Moving on, I think he's not maybe hitting on so many picks in the mid to late rounds. We'll see. I think that will probably hurt him. Yeah, I think that's going to hurt him this year in the MLB level. So moving on to the prospect round. So this is it, right? So you got your prospect rounds when it's flipped here. You start getting the premium prospects, and Jason Dominguez is going to become de facto MLB player. He's going to help out that MLB roster right away. Oh, I kind of like. Then he goes Harrington, which is super unsexy. I don't think I'd go him there, but Harrington will probably be helping the major league team again this year. Braden Montgomery, Chicago needs him to be an impact sooner than later. Braxton Ashcraft, he's going with a lot of pro-ready guys. I'm just gonna list them off: Jefferson Cuero, Shea Whitcomb, Robbie Snelling. These guys aren't really the highest upside guys, but you know what? This could really accelerate his MLB clock here in terms of contention. He does lack some upside picks later on, I'd say. So it'll be interesting. I think he should make trades if he wants to go for it sooner than later. Shore up those bats at the major league level, and we could have some fun.
Oh, what do you think?
First glance, I don't love it, but don't hate it either. I think Duran Devers is a fine start, especially in points leagues. I like the kind of run of arms from 3 to 5 with Peralta, Heel, and Sanchez. The rest of the lineup, it's like Doc said, not sexy, but solid guys in points leagues between Berger, Pena, and India. DJ Herz is really interesting in round 9. The command wasn't really as bad as it was in the minor leagues, kind of in the big leagues last year. So I do kind of hold on to a bit of hope that he could still start. But when you're drafting him as, I'm honestly fine taking him as a 4th starter when you got a guy when you have some kind of death arms later, like Nick Martinez, Lorenzen, and I'm trying to think. Thought there was one more. Guess not. Onto the prospect, I really like Dominguez and Harrington as that start. Probably a little round earlier than I would have taken Harrington, but could see a lot of starts in the big leagues this year. Good command. I think the stuff is kind of underrated. I don't love Braxton Ashcraft there in the 30th. There's just too many injuries for me to really get behind him as a starter. I do like Braden Montgomery to jump back around in the 29th. Jefferson Cuero, I felt like was really good value in the 31st, just coming off that labrum injury, but former top 40 MLB prospect overall, if I'm getting that right. Other than that, yeah, Robbie Snelling is an interesting post-hype guy. I think he's more of I view him as more of a 4 or 5 than kind of the future ace that I once kind of viewed him as, but I still feel like that solid value there could get a good handful of starts at the MLB level. Other than that, those are really the prospect picks that really stand out for me. Don't love much of these late round picks. But yeah, I would agree that definitely think some trades are needed. Shea Whitcomb in round 32 is really interesting, even more so if the Astros don't re-sign Bregman. There's a chance he kind of gets that starting role. He's a fun, toolsy player, especially in a points league that's going to play. I think that's La La Lane is, the upside is definitely there. Injuries kind of concern me, but there's no denying the stuff. I think he gets a role of some kind. I'm fine taking that dart throw in the 35th.
Yeah, Lane was a nice pick there, right? He could
Yeah,
never play, but he could also be Luis
yeah,
Severino, a
yeah.
guy that
No, I
finally developed.
honestly, I think, I would look stuff wise. I think, Severino to me is like more of the kind of unflattering stuff. I didn't love him even after last
Well,
season.
do
I
you
thought,
remember Severino 3 years ago?
well, yeah. Then
I mean, he
the
was
injuries hit me.
97, 98,
I
the
can see
slider
that.
at 87.
Okay,
Like,
yeah.
sure, the
I
injuries
thought
wiped him out, but
I thought we were looking at the Severino of late, but yeah,
no,
I
no,
I,
no, no.
I can definitely see
And
that.
and that's the
I,
hard
I
thing. Like, I think the
It's a fun
Dominican,
range of outcomes. Like you could be looking
yeah.
at the top end of the rotation guy with his stuff, or you could be looking at an electric closer. And 35, I
Mhm.
don't. It doesn't really scream value to me, but at the same time, I can understand where he's going with that.
Yeah, other name. I mean, Drake, Santana, Guerrero, who we talked about, Arias for the Yankees. Like the round 35 really was take your shot. Like hopefully these guys develop at 35. You have at least a trait, whether it's power, speed, or velocity that you're leaning on. And I think there may be some guys I like otherwise, but he's still of value there, especially thinking back last year. Like last year, Lane was probably going 28, 29, which is outrageous, but he was. Any other thoughts there, Owen?
That's all I got.
All right, guys, we're on to the last one. Sydney Blues. First player off the board, Dylan Cease at 130, immediately followed up on the turn by Trey Turner. Anthony Santander coming in for number 3, Alex Bregman, number 4, and then Devin Williams, followed by some kind of mid guys who actually might have some value. Owen, I'll let you kick it off.
I actually really like this team. Drafting from the 30th is a tough spot to draft from because a lot can happen between those 60 picks after the turn. But I think I don't really honestly have much to pick with even the first 9 rounds here. Cease, Turner, Santander, Bregman, Williams, Brendan Donovan, Shea Langoliers, I felt like was really good value at the end of the 7th. Nate Lau and Lourdes Gurriel. I like that 1 through 9 a lot. Don't love Severino there in the 10th. I do like Cronenworth in the end of the 11th there. I look at it as a buy low and a former All-Star. I like some of these late round picks too, contrary to some of the other teams we've talked about. I like Matos in the 14th. I also really like Vodnik in the 20th. Getting on a little later to the prospect rounds, Sasaki with that first overall pick, and then follows that up with Colby Thomas. I don't love that one. I don't really think the hit tool is going to be good, but he can give you enough power and stolen bases to impact in a points league. And then follows that up with Alejandro Rosario. Love that pick. And then I really like Ronnie Mauricio at the 30th. Same with Luis Perales. Follow that up next. Ralphie Velasquez and Blake Mitchell in 32 and 33. Really like Sawyer Gibson Long in the 34th. Yeah, he'll be back, I would expect, sometime this summer, but the stuff looked great when we last saw him. Detroit, they've kind of gotten a knack lately for developing pitching. Even some of these later round picks, he grabbed a lot of my guys with Conrad Kaysen in the 37th. I like Gino Groover there in the 36th as well. Then Dakota Jordan, I like a lot in the 39th. Honestly, I really like how these kind of prospects came out. Even some of these later round picks with Ryan Zefirhan and Luis Guerrero, you've got 2 big league ready relievers who could get you a good amount of holds. Hunter Dobbins too is a bit of a sleeper in Boston's system, but I feel like he can be upside of a number 3, number 4. But yeah, this is in my opinion one of the more well balanced teams between the MLB lineup and the prospects.
Doc, I want to swing back to you now before you touch on 130. I don't think I gave you a shot to talk about 129, did I?
Yeah, I think I did. I started it off.
Okay. Do you want to finish us off with 130?
We gotta start getting mad at Matt here. He's not paying attention either, man. He's trying to let this whole we actually did great. We're so much better with time today. I'm very happy about it. I think we did some good stuff. So Sydney, this is our Australian guy. We have an Australian league mate, and I gotta say he was a stud. He basically always set his cues, never put up a fuss. He understood that he was in a different time zone, and he understood that assignment. I think that I agree. This is a team. But I would say this team is built for now, though. I'm not really. I I think I'm not seeing a lot of upside in his post like 40th pick for the 40th round. So every prospect after that, I'm not really seeing a lot of excitement. I see a lot of like, especially in his early prospect picks, some obviously Sasaki, some proximity to it, Ronnie Mauricio. It's interesting. I like his MLB side more. So I would say, if anything, if some of his prospects do start getting some helium, I think he should make some deals. And if he's going to do it, man, I mean, this is a team that is clearly, it's got a lot of win now essence to it. I don't know what to make of it. A lot of them aren't my guys, but they're like I'm still able to objectively sit here and say, well, that's worth something. That's got some upside. And so he's one of those teams. I'm interested to see what happens with him. I'm certainly glad we got him in the league. And man, I can't believe we crushed 30 teams. I think we lost all of our non-league mate followers on Spotify and YouTube, though. They're probably out. They're like, what the frig? What's this podcast? You guys just talk about your own leagues now. But hopefully y'all gain some kind of insight. We're talking. Here's the flip side of it. I was talking about this to Matt. Is like, I think these podcasts we talk about more players than any other podcast because we have to. We're talking about it so many different teams, so you're getting a ton of value crammed in. And take away if you don't care about the league, forget about it. We're talking about players. They're in your league too.
Yeah, and I think to kind of like just jump on that before you go, Owen, the idea is, where's the value in a 30 team, right? How does that transfer over to a 15? When you're pairing certain players and certain profiles, how would you rather do that? I think the prospects, some of them taken, right, that we've hit on are guys that maybe people don't know. When you're drafting, what was it, 30 prospects in a 30-man league, like that's 900 prospects. So there's just going to be names and stones that we're turning over. Owen, what were your thoughts there?
Yeah, I was actually gonna say just while we're talking about the league, I actually sent over New Britain an offer for Lindor. I actually feel like this has a shot to get it done, but I cannot go with Rocio as my shortstop if I'm planning to win now. So I offered him DeVries, Kalaz, and Rocio for Lindor. I honestly.
Oh yeah, that's a good offer. That's
DeVries, Kalaz, and you said you offered Rocio in there.
He should do it. Well,
yeah,
Rocio sucks, but I like the other two guys.
Honestly, I think he goes for that.
And you're committed to losing the upside of DeVries, obviously, and Kalaz to win over the next, like, say, 3 seasons?
I mean, in my opinion, I'm getting one of the best shortstops in the league.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue against that.
I think, like, obviously, yeah, there's a lot of upside I'm losing there, but it's a win now type of move and addresses a big area of need. So,
who would your pipeline shortstop be if you're going to trade DeVries? Do you have somebody already rostered that would be, like, say, serviceable in 4 years?
Jet Williams, if
he plays short.
I think
he's always gonna play. He's always gonna play short. He's 5'6", dude.
I mean, Francisco Lindor is the shortstop. You know what I mean? And he's got 7 years left on his contract.
Casual puns, everyone. We're dropping in the puns.
I just gotta say, like, if there's a guy, if there's a player I need, I'm gonna send you a good offer. I'm not gonna waste your time with just some low ball. But yeah, I mean, I feel like just depending if he is fully committed to a rebuild, that's a really good haul for him.
I mean, that's an interesting thought because you follow the same train of thought I do with trades. I don't start low and build high. I start with my offer and maybe I'm willing to give.
Yeah.
I don't like to mess around. And I think a lot of managers, what I've found is like they're used to the start low, build high. So if you send a high offer, they think to themselves that that's your low offer. Mm-hmm. And then I'm insulted when you come in and ask for 2 bigger pieces. And it's like, dude, I already gave you a respectful offer. Like now I'm never trading with you.
I think that's something I would go on.
For me, like, it's like, I want to get them to the table. So like I'll send something that I think at most could be lacking like a small piece in there. But honestly, if he turns that down, I'm not sure we're going to get something done because that's really like
that's your 90th percentile trade offer.
Yeah, that's like pushing. That's like pushing comfort point for Lindor because like for me, he's going to be. I'm getting 2 to 3 potentially elite seasons out of him. He's still
yeah. I'm in agreement with that.
And when healthy, I think he can be just an all category producer. So it's kind of the win now move that I'm willing to bank that upside for. But if he comes back and wants another top prospect in there or a significant MLB piece, it's going to be a no. But I feel like that's more than a respectable offer. Should at least get him to ponder.
Doc, before we say goodbye, what were you I wanted you to get your thoughts on that trade logic there.
Oh no, I think it's great. I think it's a win for both teams. And I had this big thread on the greatest rebuild of all time. I still think it is. I think I would have put that in there though. That's something I do believe in as well, which is the almost God. It's not quite a Godfather offer mentality because that's a different concept, but it is 90. I like that 90th percentile offer because when I get these garbage offers, especially when I keep getting them from the same GMs, I'm just less likely to click it, less likely to think we're going to get some more, or maybe subconsciously I'm just like annoyed it's going to be dragged out. Whereas with me, I actually want to reduce the thinking from the other team. I want them to, and I've got people telling me this before, saying like I didn't want to trade Bryce Eldridge, but your friggin' offer, like it was just good. Like I had to take it basically.
You don't want to give them a choice to say no. You almost want them to smash accept. Yeah.
Yes.
I also look at it in this perspective. I hate it when guys just send me a message, Fantrax Discord, say, I'm interested in this guy, and this guy. Like, I will never do that. If there's a guy I'm interested in, I will send an offer that I think at least gets it to the table. So since I hate it when people come to me and say, hey, these are the names I'm interested, send something over that you think matches us. Like, I will actually I will send an offer initially that I think will get somebody to the table. There was one that I sent originally for Tavar. I thought it was probably missing one more piece, but I offered Torkelson and Rocio for Tavar. That was shut down. But it's like if there's a guy I'm interested in, I will at least start it off with an offer. If you don't like
it's interesting.
If you don't like it, that's okay. But it's kind of looking at like the mentality of like how I hate to be approached by trades, and that's just like, hey, I'm interested in this guy.
You would rather know if it's the door is closed with your best offer and just say, okay, like that manager clearly doesn't see the guys that I see or need the guys that I have, and like now I can't pursue X player. And I think that's fair.
It's just so funny to me.
Oh, go ahead, Doc.
It's just so funny because I've heard the opposite. I actually am more in your line of thinking where I just want to I don't save the words, dude. I'm busy. I'm going to shoot my shot, take it or leave it, or maybe we can talk after if you're interested. But I've heard a lot of people say the opposite, where they're like, "What's up with people just like sending offers? Like, I want to talk about it. I want to see where we're at." I'm like, come on.
For me, like it's like I would rather get a rough idea of how somebody values somebody, and if it's something we can go off of, let's talk. I'm not gonna if there's an initial offer that I feel like is close, I'm not gonna just decline it without a counter or without like a message back, something like that. But like for me, it's just purely window shopping to just like kind of say, here are the names I'm interested, do the work for me. And also like I know like the flip side of that is like shoot low. Maybe it gets it done after all. But like I would rather have like good trade relations with a guy rather than just lowball and risk just not being able to get a guy I want.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. All right, guys, that's it for us today. Owen, thank you so much for being on the show again. We always love having you on, having a little banter with Doc. Catch you real soon. And Doc, you want to send us out?
Well, as always, I'm your Huckleberry.